Okay, this one's going to talk about her husband, her companion. Radicalization of the old neighborhood where my house is. Human trafficking, prostitution, what they're putting in the drugs. Okay, so let's start with her husband or her companion. I don't know if he's actually her husband. He came from the neighborhood. When he was in the neighborhood before he connected up with Misty, he was just making drugs and selling them. He wasn't doing anything else. She's got him involved in so much crap, it's not even funny. Okay, let's talk about the radicalization of the neighborhood. It started turning very, very radical. Muslims were moving in, teaching Sharia law to the people in the neighborhood. There's always been some human trafficking in the area, usually got caught right away. It was not anything like what it is now. If you think there's a drug problem in that area, the human trafficking is a lot worse. The drugs are just a means to get the human trafficking done. Now, with the human trafficking, they are also trafficking children, and people in that neighborhood are literally selling their children. What is going on is usually, if there's a mother present, usually she either gets locked up in a mental institution or they throw her in jail first to get her out of there. If that doesn't work, then she goes missing. But right before she goes missing, something interesting happens. Most of these mothers are on welfare benefits, food stamps, stuff like that. And this is renewed right before she goes missing and the children go missing. The children go missing next. And most of the men in the neighborhood are just saying, well, she up and took the children and they left. Not true. There was a child when I lived back on Jones. There was a child, beautiful child, white blonde hair, very long. She was about 5-6 years old. And there were 2 Muslim men walking in front of her, about 20 feet. And she was following them. And I stopped the child. And I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "You need to go in the other direction, go home." And she says, "No, my daddy told me I have to go with them." And they turned around and they looked and they said, "Come on, let's go." And I told her, I says, "Turn around, go home. You don't go with them. You don't belong with them." And she says, she started to turn around, they called back to her. And they weren't that nice about it. And she went running in the other direction right past me and went to them. Child was never seen again. This child used to ride her bike all the time in the neighborhood. She used to pass the house all the time, going to Fronsac Park. Child was never seen again. Also, prostitution. There are not only using the women as drug mules, but prostitutes. There's 2 different types going on. There's one where they're the houses and the IV drips. Misty also admitted to this part. And then there's also work in the streets. Now, they had, when I was living back on Jones, they had, there were 2 houses on Lewis that I was aware of. Not too far from each other. They're down by the corner of Clinton. And the one house, there were 3 guys, appeared to be of Middle Eastern descent. And they had one behind me, one in front of me, one on the street walking along the side of me. And as I was going up Lewis, coming from the store on Clinton and Lewis, they boxed me in and they were going to try to get me in the house. Well, I pulled out my phone and I popped in 911 and kept my thumb on the number, on the dial button, and they backed off. They just broke up. They backed off completely. Like I said, the drugs are just a means. They get these women hooked really bad, and they can't use them anymore. They kill them. And that's what Misty did. She was using my house as a slaughterhouse. She does have these houses where she's using the IV drips. She has admitted it. So what's going into these drugs? Very interesting, because she also admitted this. She admitted to propophyl and also reprogramming drugs going into the drugs. Now, it's interesting because there is an audio where she says where she's getting these reprogrammed drugs from. She says she's getting them from Chertoff. And so I don't know if it's hitting into the drug supply or whether this is just being put in the drugs for her girls at the house. I don't know. But that's covers 1, 2, 3, 4 different areas of what happened and what is really going on, what she's admitted to, and what I know about this stuff.